Assalamu alaikum. This podcast has been brought to you by Seeker's Guidance, the Global Islamic Seminary. Help us spread the light of prophetic guidance to millions around the world by becoming a monthly supporter. Make a small donation at seekersguidance.org/donate. As little as $10 a month can help people find life-changing guidance.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. اللهم لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما تعلمنا وزدنا من فضلك علما وعملا وقربا يا أرحم الراحمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us to learn about his prophets again, and subhanallah. So we're starting on, we started yesterday on the best of stories, the story of Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, and I'd love to go into detail. Honestly, I'm gonna have to resist, but there's so much in this story. It's unbelievable. Allah starts the story after the introduction about Sayyidina Yusuf's dream. So this will have been roughly at the age where he's about 3 or 4, very early on, very young. And then he says, لَقَدْ كَانَ فِي يُوسُفَ وَإِخْوَتِهِ آيَاتٌ لِلسَّائِلِينَ. He says, I swear by God, he swears himself, there has always been in Yusuf and his brothers many signs. So the signs are actually in their story, right? But he's saying that there are many signs in Yusuf and his brothers themselves, just to show that how deeply connected these signs are to the structure of the story, to the narrative, what happens. Generally in Western literature, there's something called the hero's journey, which is basically any decent story has a progression for the protagonist, the person who's the focus of the story. So he starts off at a stage and he develops, he goes through difficulties, endures adversities, and he grows through these. And then at the end, he's not the same person. He's the same individual, but he's grown, he's flourished, and he gets to the end of the story where he's a better person, right? And this is quite true in life as well. This is how things work out. You go through difficulties, and then what you are at the end is not what you were at the beginning, right? You learn from your experiences. And so there are many signs for those who ask. Those who ask because they want to know, they actively want to benefit. The believer wants to benefit, right? So the believer actively wants to benefit. So then he says, إِذْ قَالُوا لَيُوسُفَ وَأَخُوهُ أَحَبُّ إِلَىٰ أَبِينَا مِنَّا وَنَحْنُ عُصْبَةٌ. When they said, who? The brothers. So now there are 10 brothers. They might have shared the same mother or not, Allahu A'lam, but Yaqub alayhi salam is definitely their father. But Yusuf and his younger brother are siblings from, they're half brothers, right? Siblings from another mother. And so Yusuf and his brother, it said that their mother passed away, and then Yaqub alayhi salam married her sister, right? So they say, Yusuf, that Yusuf, right? So there's spite, there's malice, there's hatred, there's contempt in this word. And who are they talking about? They're talking about their young brother, right? And we'll see they say وَنَحْنُ عُصْبَةٌ, and we'll see that they describe themselves as a usba, and an usba is a group of men between 3 and 40, but there's 10 of them. So they're fully grown adults, developed adults, and they're acting like children, right? It's pathetic, right? But this is what happens when Shaitan comes. Like I said, Shaitan had a vested interest in this family, and he really wanted to make things go wrong for them. So they say that Yusuf and his brother. So they don't say Yusuf and Binyamin, they say Yusuf and his brother. And which shows that the brunt of their anger and the majority of their hatred is focused towards Yusuf, right? And his brother's just in there because he's Yusuf's brother, right? Full brother, right? أَحَبُّ إِلَىٰ أَبِينَا مِنَّا. He is more beloved to our father than us. Oh my gosh, what a crime, right? What a crime Yusuf's committed. He's more beloved to his father. This is, Yusuf doesn't have this vindictive quality that they have, right? And it's very clear he's I like to call this type of person a transparent person. You know, what you see is what you get, right? And he's not, he'll be talking to you, and whatever he has is inside, this is what he's putting across. He's not hatching secret plots and plans inside. He's a prophet, of course, right? But they're also children of prophets. They could have chosen to be like this, but they let shaitan mess them about. So he's more beloved to our father than us. So there's no chance. There's a few things we need to focus on, as I said yesterday. Do parents love their children equally? Many do, right? It's very possible for a parent to love his children equally, but if he doesn't, or if she doesn't, is that a crime? No. Generally, fathers have an affinity for their daughters, and mothers have their affinity to their sons, opposite gender and all that, right? And sometimes the eldest is, might be more beloved to someone, and sometimes the youngest, right? But the issue here is, and then you get stuff like middle sibling syndrome. But the issue here is, Yaqub alayhi salatu wasalam is a prophet. He will never. We can always expect the best, type of behavior from him. There will never have been anything Yaqub ever did to make them feel left out, right? So to make them feel like, oh, he loves him more than us, or he loves them more than us. Never. I guarantee you this. So where's the problem? The problem is inwards. The problem is theirs, because they are jealous of Yusuf, right? Why? They see qualities in him that they admire, but they don't want him to have it. Jealousy, shaitan, I am better than him. Why should we do sajda to him? Why doesn't anyone do sajda to me? That kind of attitude, right? So he says Yusuf and his brother are more beloved to our father than we are, whilst we are a group of strong men, right? Usba, meaning we go out and do all the work. Yaqub alayhi salam was quite old, right, in the story, right? He's described as a Shaykh, and a Shaykh is someone past his 70s, right? White hair, and so he's old. So they're like, we're the ones who protect the family. We would defend the family if something happened. We go out, we work, we bring home the bread, let's say, right? And we're the breadwinners. We do everything. So why is he more beloved? Because he's a better person, right? So they're jealous of that. And for parents, every child, as I said before, every human's need is to feel loved. Every child wants approval and love from their parents, right? Which is, so you give them that, right? Because it's a basic need, and it's sadaqah for the parent, and it's a right of the child. So like when if you go somewhere, you see kids in the park and they're playing whatever, and the parents have their faces in their phones, right? Not this sort of stuff. Give them the time and attention that they need, right? I just referred to something called the love languages. It's requires a talk, but basically the way people give and receive love, and it's all in the sunnah of the Prophet. So you can do a test and you can find out what you are, how you express and need to receive love. Sometimes it's through nice words or acts of service, or gifts, or touch, or quality time. When you give 100% to someone, if you don't do this, your children feel neglected. And so never praise a child or show too much love to a child at the expense of another. Show them equal love, be fair in all of this. And Allah loves this. Allah loves people who are fair. And then they say, Inna abana lafi dalalim mubin. Our father is completely lost. He's so lost that his being lost is shouting out, I'm lost, I'm lost. He's lost, right? What's this? This is shaitan playing games with them, right? Their father is a prophet. How on earth can a prophet be lost? Impossible, right? So they're saying this, and obviously he's their father, and he will never have done anything. Even when they go and they do something to Yusuf, he doesn't fly off the handle. He doesn't shout at them. He's gentle with them to the last, right? So they're the problem, right? So what's the solution to this? Uqtulu Yusuf, kill Yusuf, right? Look, He's a 7 or 8 or maybe an 8, 9-year-old kid at this point. Kill him. You're going to kill him? What's wrong with you? Right? A child. So, أو اطرحوه أرضا, right? Or throw him off in a far off land. And this might even be worse. As I said, leaving home, leaving your loved ones, leaving your family, your friends, familiar surroundings, environment is very difficult, especially in those times when slavery was rife. As we'll see, he is enslaved, right? So it's a very harsh choice, either outright murder or leave him to die, basically somewhere far off where he won't be able to get home. And what will happen? يَخْلُ لَكُمْ وَجْهُ أَبِيكُمْ. Your father's face will be unblocked for you. So literally, it's as though there stood there, Yaqub is there, and Yusuf and Binyamin are blocking their father off. It's as though they can't even see their father, right? So once Yusuf's dead or is out of the way, their father will give them full attention. This is what they think. Pay attention. If you do things, as I've said the other day, if you actively try and harm someone, what will happen? Shaitan's going to come and he's going to وَزَيَّنَ لَهُمْ الشَّيْطَانُ أَعْمَالَهُم. And the shaitan makes them think that their good deeds are wicked, brilliant, right? He makes them seem beautiful. So people convince themselves, oh, this is what you need to do, and we'll do this and we'll do that. We're acting righteously. No, this is what we're doing. And what's actually happening? Shaitan's playing games with them, right? So they're saying, oh, do that, and then everything will be kushti, everything will be hunky-dory, and our father will love us, and all that love that's being wasted on Yusuf and Binyamin will now come to us, and we'll all be happy. Will they? Of course not, right? Because the motive isn't the love, the motive is jealousy. That's why, because they were actively trying to harm them, they don't get this. When Yusuf disappears off the scene, Allah blocks it. You're doing this to harm someone? Fine. You be harmed. So they don't receive that love that they wanted. And then they say, so your father's face will now become unblocked for you. وَتَكُونُ مِنْ بَعْدِهِ قَوْمًا صَالِحِينَ. And then you'll be forevermore after that people who are extremely righteous, right? And the wording is quite powerful, but you'll be extremely righteous. No, this is like basically saying, what I'm going to do, if someone says that he'll go have that, pork pie or that bacon butty or whatever, and he'll have that glass of wine, and then he'll say, oh Allah, I'm sorry, forgive me, right? No, right? This is a problem because a pre-planned tawbah isn't a tawbah, it's a mockery, right? And this sort of situation, especially like I'll take one step and then the second step and then the third step and the fourth step, we'll do this and then I'll say sorry. Who are you kidding, right? And there's weaknesses people have, and because they'll commit a sin or whatever, and then they'll make tawbah and they'll end up in it again, right? And they make tawbah. That's the normal routine of a believer, right? But this is just, it's nothing short of a mockery. We'll make tawbah. After that, we'll be righteous. We'll do one last bad thing, and then there's an issue here. Yes, the ulama do say, I think it's based on a hadith, but I'm not entirely sure. أَصْلِحْ مَا بَقِيَ يُغْفَرُ لَكَ مَا مَضَى. No, it was a statement of Fudayl ibn Iyad, where a man came up to Fudayl ibn Iyad, and he said, they had a conversation, and he said, look, how old are you? Fudayl said, he said, I'm 60. And he said, you've got very little time left. So he said, how do I get out of the situation, and how do I sort myself out? And then Fudayl said, fix what remains of your life, whether it's 10 years, 5 years, 3 years, 50 years, whatever. Fix what remains, and everything that's gone will be forgiven. Yes, that's true. But here it's, let's go actively harm him, and then we'll ask for forgiveness, will be sorted. No, it doesn't work like that. They are forgiven in the end, but in order for them to be forgiven, they have to be remorseful. So Allah brings about a situation for them to feel this remorse. So قَالَ قَائِلٌ مِّنْهُمْ. One of them speaks. Who? We don't know. Not important. One of them speaks up and he says, لَا تَقْتُلُوا Yusuf. Don't kill Yusuf. right? He's your brother. What you do, throw him in the pit of a well. So what happens is, a pit of the well, right? So there's a well that they know, right? And then يلتقطه بعض السيارة إن كنتم فاعلين. He says, if you can do anything, throw him into a well. So what they would do is, they would dig a well, and right, so the wells are deep, maybe 50, 60 feet, whatever, right? So they're deep. But sometimes with a well, they would dig a well, but on one side of the well, in one spot, they'd have a ledge. So if someone ever needed to go down, drop something, whatever, that he doesn't have to just jump into the water or be in the water. So he goes onto that ledge. So they say, put him, and this is called a ghayaba, right? Alquhu, throw him into the ghayaba of this well, right? And there's so much in the tafsir that comes out, but let's leave this for now. And then he says, so the well is known, right? So we can tell that from the wording, that they know which well, and it's in a particular location. Which one is it in reality? Allah doesn't tell us, right? So it's not important to the story, but they know the well, and they know that caravans, sayyara, the modern word for a car actually, but all these travelers go from Damascus or Beirut, Lebanon, and they go down past their homes through Arabia, or they go to Egypt, whatever. It's a central location, and some people will pick him up, they'll take him far, right? And he'll be safe at least, right? If you're going to do anything, do that. That's what it says. So he manages to convince them, and subhanallah, he manages to convince them, and they decide, okay, let's go speak to our father. So normally Yaqub would not let Yusuf out of his sight. Every day Yusuf's with him. He's only a young boy, 7, 8, 9, right? Binyamin's younger. So so Yaqub doesn't trust them with him. He knows, look, a believer, although like I said, Sayyidina Yusuf was transparent, right? A believer isn't stupid, right? The Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, لا يلدغ المؤمن من جحر واحد مرتين. A believer is not stung or not bitten from the same animal hole twice. So you learn your lesson. If you do something and then something happens, then you don't say, oh, it's okay, I forgive you, and yes, forgive, but you don't just blindly jump into the same situation again. Once you know what a person's like or what a situation's like, then you shy away. Once bitten, twice shy, right? And Sayyidina Yaqub is one of the greatest of the believers. He understands what's going on, that these people, they're actually like this, and they would want to harm him. So what do? They do something quite low, which is what? Emotional blackmail, right? And playing with someone's emotions and playing games like this, some people find it very easy, and these aren't the kind of people that you want to be around. These are generally what they call toxic people, right? And their toxicity harms you and affects you, right? You're under no obligation to be in a situation where you're forced to be around toxic people if they're harming you, right? You can keep, even with family members, that you keep a slight distance. That means so they don't end up harming you. It doesn't mean you say, that's it, you're dead to me, I don't want to see you ever again. When I die, don't come to my funeral. That's wrong, right? That's not the way of Islam. The way of Islam is, even if you have some enmity, or not enmity, some tension and problems with some people, face it, some people are just hard to get on with, right? And if it's actively harming you, then you take a step back, right? Be as nice to them as you can, be as polite and whatever, and send them a gift, on Eid or whatever, right? But don't actively, harm someone, right? And also, like, when you deal with people, you have to understand that what you do, what you reap, you sow. It's as simple as that. So, yes, in Islam, people who are elder, the ulama and people who are elder, there's a level of respect, right? And with people who are younger, kids or whatever, you be kind and nice and gentle to them. And so this is what's expected. But just because someone's older than you, like an older sibling, for example, who's maybe 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 years older than you, right? There's a degree of respect that's due, but it doesn't mean that that person can abuse someone who's younger, and the younger one has to put up with it, right? And generally what you'll find in life is, if you want respect, you have to give respect. If you don't give respect, then in general you don't deserve that respect back, right? And with parents, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has, they deserve this respect and your du'as for the fact that they were the cause of your birth, yeah? Not because someone can be a biological mother and father, so they're your parents in that sense, but then when the tarbiyah comes, raising you, they might have botched it completely, right? So Allah says, just for the fact that they were the means of you coming into this world, show them some respect. Show them respect. And obviously a healthy relationship boosts that. I see, I've had people come to me and they're like, oh, can you do a talk or Jummah khutbah or whatever on respecting parents and whatever, this lad of mine and whatever, and he starts abusing the kid in the street, right? He doesn't listen to me and whatever, and it's like, what do you expect? You're treating him like this in public. What do you do at home, right? And then you want him to respect you. It's not gonna happen, mate, right? There's a story of the Sahaba. A man came and he said, my son's hitting me or abusing me, and then Umar said, bring your son. So his son came, and then his father said, Umar said, what are you doing? Why'd you do this? And he said, look, he doesn't fulfill my rights. He hasn't fulfilled my rights as a child. And then he says to Umar, does a child have rights? So Umar mentioned a few. He picks a good mother for him in the first place. He teaches him Qur'an, he teaches him good adab, manners, whatever. And then he said he's neglected all these things. So then he says to the father, it's your fault, basically. And then if that's the case with these 3 rights he mentioned, then what about someone else that's neglecting their children, or even worse, right? Then so it's like this. So generally, giving respect brings respect. You can't command respect. People who command respect just by their presence, is because their presence is, it's not, they have something that people look up to, right? And so you have to give respect. It's very simple like that. So it says, and then so even with parents, that if you have had a difficult relationship, then obviously do what you can, right? Do what you can to show them that love and respect, and du'as, especially after they pass away. But if there's some sort of abusive relationship, then you can step back. So they say, Ya Abana, oh our dear father. Do they normally talk like this? I don't know, but they're buttering him up, as they say. Malaka, what's wrong with you? Look at this. Who would say this to his father? What's wrong with you? There's something wrong. Yes, a parent can do something, wrong. That's normal, right? But a prophet, no. And they know this, right? La ta'manna, right? And this is quite nice, like in the edition I've got. In any copy of the Qur'an, when you read this, it has a line or a mark or something, because in the narration of Hafs and Asim, what we recite, there's 2 ways you recite this. So it's la ta. So there's something called Rome, which you learn about in Tajweed. So basically, here you've got to move your mouth, and I won't go into it, but there is a purpose to it. So instead of reciting la ta'manna, you say la ta'manna. You got to curl your lips. La ta'manna. This is the practice that was inherited from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Or this is with a ghunna. La ta'manna. Or there's no ghunna, but you recite it with 3 noons, right? La ta'manuna, and the second noon is really quick. If it was full speed, la ta'manuna, but it's la ta'manuna. The second one's really quick. Anyway, that's how you recite it. So they say, our dear father, what's wrong with you? You don't trust us with Yusuf. وَإِنَّا لَهُ لَنَاصِحُونَ. So there's a nominal sentence and they're using inna for emphasis and we. And there's a lot happening in the sentence because they're saying we have nothing but sincere good wishes for Yusuf. Why don't you trust him? So why don't you trust us with him? We want the very best for him. We're not going to do anything to harm him. Right? And so they're making Yaqub feel like he's a bad parent. They're making him feel like, look, you should trust your children, but you're not trusting your children. What's wrong? Why don't you trust your children with their own sibling, right? Then they say arsilhu ma'ana. This is beautiful. So the word arsilhu, arsala is when something is wanting to go in a direction but you're holding it back, and then you let go and then it will go. So it's like you're holding a balloon with helium in it. The balloon wants to rise, but you're preventing it. When you let go, it will rise. Yeah. So let him go. He wants to go, right? Tomorrow, let him go with us tomorrow. He'll eat. He'll have, he'll play. He'll have lots of fun, right? Saying he's a child. He needs this, right? And you're not letting him do this. وَإِنَّا لَهُ لَحَافِظُونَ. Look at the wording. It's the same. I won't go into it, but it's the same wording that Allah uses to promise that He will preserve the Qur'an. Right, so it's a very strong promise and a pledge. We're really gonna protect him. Trust me, right? And then what does he say? قال إني. So he's upfront, straightforward person. إني ليحزنني أن تذهبوا به. Excuse me. If you were to take him, I'd be very saddened. Right? This must have hurt. Right? So they're obviously upset with, he loves him more than us. Now he's saying, just as taking him, saddens him. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, sometimes, He said it and Allah makes it happen. Right? It was meant to happen. Allah's planned for them. And honestly, so just right now, just remember this. Every time someone did something to harm Sayyidina Yusuf, every time, every step of the way when someone did something to harm him, Allah used that action of theirs as the means for his ascendancy, as the means for him to rise higher and closer and get to the top. Have him, throw him in a well, he ends up with the Prime Minister. And throw him in prison, he's in this situation, that situation, he gets to be with the king. Every time. So just remember this in life, right? If you're not actively harming someone, someone's actively harming you, stay safe, but remember that you'll benefit. It's as simple as that. And especially if you pardon someone, right? I have an article called Just Forgiving, right? And if someone's harmed you and it's really dhulm and wrong, then we have a Lord who's just, and justice will be established on the Day of Judgment. But from your perspective, if you harm them, if you forgive them, you'll be the winner. The Prophet told us, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, every time someone pardons someone else who's wronged him, this person rises. Yeah. Allah will raise this person. So this is what you want, right? And then He says, and then He says, وَأَخَافُ أَنْ يَأْكُلَهُ الذِّئْبُ. And I'm afraid that a wolf will eat him, right? So that location had a few wolves, and obviously they're farmers, right? Shepherds, they've got sheep and whatever. So wolves like to attack sheep. So I'm afraid that a wolf will come and eat him whilst you're heedless of him. Maybe you'll neglect him, maybe you won't be with him, or something will happen and then this wolf will come and eat him. I don't want that to happen. So this is قالوا لئن أكله الذئب ونحن عصبة إنا إذا لخاسرون. If a wolf comes and eats him whilst we are this group of strong, powerful men, then we're losers, we're worthless. Whatever we do in life, we lose out at that. If you can't even stop a wolf, a single wolf, how are we going to do anything else? How are we going to achieve anything else? So, toing and froing and talking and whatever, they do it. They convince him. And so he goes off, and obviously, إِذَا أَرَادَ اللَّهُ أَمْرًا هَيِّئَ لَهُ أَسْبَابًا. When Allah wants something, Allah facilitates the means for that to happen, right? And this is really powerful. It says, فَلَمَّا ذَهَبُوا بِهِ وَأَجْمَعُوا عَلَىٰ أَنْ يَجْعَلُوهُ فِي غَيَابَةِ الْجُبِّ. Silence. So Allah says, and when they took him and when they agreed to put him into the well, silence. So when denotes a condition. When you come to my house, I won't even open the door, right? Something like that. So when something happens, something else will happen. So Allah is saying, when they took him and when they agreed to throw him into the well, silence, right? What happened? Well, firstly, when they took him, they have an argument, right? They have a fight. You know what? We've had enough of him. He's here. Let's just finish him off. Let's kill him. So they want to kill him right here, right now, at this time. And so there's, they start speaking and arguing. No, we're not going to kill him. Yes, we are. This and the other. All of these things. And eventually they fight. They win out and they say, okay, fine. We won't kill him. We'll throw him into the well. So that's one thing that's implied into the text. The second thing that's implied is they took all their anger and frustration and hatred out on him before they put him in there. Yeah? So literally they beat him black and blue, right? And he's a young brother. These are adult men. And so they really hurt him, beat him. And can you imagine a young child, 7, 8, is really excited. My elder brothers, they're going to take me out, and we're going to play, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and and I normally don't go, and he's there, and then what happens is they start beating him up, and and there are some narrations in the Bible about this, and we won't go into them, but it's implied, it is implied that and then Allah says وَأَوْحَيْنَا إِلَيْهِمْ وَأَوْحَيْنَا إِلَيْهِ إِنْ لَتُنَبِّئَنَّهُمْ بِأَمْرِهِمْ هَذَا وَهُمْ لَا يَشْعُرُونَ. You're certainly going to tell them about this matter of theirs, and this telling will be consequential. It will be a very important situation, and they'll be unaware of who you are and unaware of that you still remember this or that this happened, right? And we'll see when that happens. So at this point, because he's a chosen person, someone who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala consoled him with this. And simply because the tests of the prophets are harder than what we have. The Prophet said, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he was asked, he said, أَشَدُّ النَّاسِ بَلَاءً الْأَنْبِيَاءُ. The people with the most severe trials are the prophets. فَالْأَمْثَلْ. Then those who resemble them the most, and those who resemble them the most. So, this is what happens. So Allah consoled him, and at that point brought him tranquility to his heart, and ease of peace of mind. Imagine him, this child, in a dark well. He's going to be thinking, who's going to come get me, and what's going to happen now? I might die in here. My own brothers did this. My father will be worried. My mother, all of this stuff. It goes through your mind. And so, what's amazing, alhamdulillah, because of the immense intensity of his trial, like I said, prophets have very soft hearts, so they feel this a lot more than we do, right? So, Allah comforted him. So, for us ordinary believers, we don't get revelation. We don't get a revelation. But we can see that, if we're in a situation, we're struggling, whatever, just like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comforted him, we can see that just like there was a good end and outcome for him, there'll be a good end and outcome for us. Right? That's what we learn from this. Right. So, he's in the well. And, subhanallah. So, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that they returned home. Right? وَجَاءُوا أَبَاهُمْ عِشَاءً يَبْكُونَ. Right? So they come home, they go to their father at night. So now what's happened? So Yaqub is old. He's got these 10 sons who are adults, and then he's got the 2 young ones. Yusuf's now gone, and they've left him inside that well. And so they go at night. Why? excuse me, Ramadan schedule. So the night time, right? So there's no search parties, right? It's difficult to look for someone at night. There's no street lights. It's completely dark. So Yaqub at this point is going to be all alone. When they go and tell him, they're not going to help him, right? They'll make an excuse. No, you don't believe us. Trust us. He's died, whatever, right? So he can't go out looking for them. He can't go out alone. He's old, very old. And who else is there? It's not like they live in a neighborhood full of lots of people where you can just, knock on someone's door and say, where's your mother? And, speak. It's not like that. It might have just been them and their extended family, right? Their wives and their children. So that's basically what happens. So they go home, Isha, so well after sunset. It's dark. What they're doing? They're hiding, right? Because, especially you can't fool someone like Sayyidina Yaqub, right? And so he has this what you call firasa, this insight. And so also the face, sometimes people's faces give away what's going on. And, they would have been able to hide the lies, especially in that moment, right? And they come and they're crying crocodile tears, right? Boo hoo hoo, they're crying over and over that Yusuf's gone. And then they say, قالوا يا أبانا, oh our dear father, إنا ذهبنا نستبق, we went to race. And the wording suggests that we were focused. That's all each of us was thinking about, beating everyone else. That's our concern was, nothing else. We were having races and we left Yusuf with our stuff, the food that they took and whatever, right? فأكله الذئب, and so a wolf came and ate him. وَمَا أَنْتَ بِمُؤْمِنٍ لَنَا, and you are never going to believe us even though we're truthful. Now you'll find this, people that are guilty do this, right? What they do is they overcompensate, in declaring their innocence, right? Or they will actually declare or even be willing to say, yes, I'm guilty, in order to make the person think, well, he's innocent, right? And you'll never believe us. Even if we're telling the truth, you've never believed us. Once again, blaming him, right? And you're the bad parent. You don't believe us, this and the other, right? And the Arabs have a saying that كاد المريب أن يقول خذوني, the suspect, the usual suspect, right? He almost says, take me, yes, I'm the criminal, right? In a roundabout way he'll say that, but and this is it. So now then Allah says, وَجَاءُوا عَلَى قَمِيصِهِ بِدَمٍ كَذِبٍ, and and also the wording ja'u right at the beginning, they come and they're coming slowly, there's no life left in them, all hope and happiness and all colour has left their lives. It's like the Wizard of Oz. It was all colour, now it's gone back to black and white, and they're walking really slowly with these steps. And our Father, and وَجَاءُوا عَلَى قَمِيصِهِ بِدَمٍ كَذِبٍ, and they came, and on his shirt they brought his shirt back, and so he's obviously sat there cold, right? And there was blood, but instead of saying with fake blood, Allah calls it blood that is falseness itself. It's a lie itself, that blood, just to show. So now there's narrations, this is some of the narrations we want to avoid, where they bring this shirt, and which is not torn or anything, and it's just got the blood of some ram or something that they slaughtered, and it's got that blood all over it. And so, and then Yaqub looks and he says, oh, well, it must have been an intelligent wolf. He took off his clothes before killing him. He didn't rip any of his clothes. Stuff like this, it's just not real. It's not a real world scenario, right? Let alone, some of the most intelligent people ever. The prophets, Yaqub alayhi salam, and, it's just, so narration like this, you best leave them aside. It's clear they will have ripped up the shirt, because they're not stupid either. Although there was a bit of foolishness that, if they were going to do something, if they don't want to be blamed, then you take your time. Take him out 5, 6, 7, 8 times. Let him have a really good time, and then if they had done something, they would have looked less suspicious. But this way, it just looks, very suspicious. So that narration we don't go with, right? So they show him this shirt with falsehood itself as blood, and then what does Sayyidina Yaqub say? He realizes now, these are the people that are going to help me, and they're not going to help me. They're the ones that would help me, but they've gone and done something to Yusuf, and remember, he suspected it for years, and so subhanallah, he says, قال بل meaning whatever you've said is wrong, is false, it's a lie. سولت لكم أنفسكم أمرا, your egos, right, with the aid of their chief advisor, Mr. Iblis, your egos have سولت, made something look which is bad, they've made it look nice to you. Your egos have convinced you that this is good and it should be done, and this is what the best way is, and it's only fitting and appropriate that we do this. So they say all your egos have convinced you to do something terrible. Amran, indefinite, is terrible, right? So then he says فَصَبْرٌ جَمِيلٌ. So maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspired him at this point that you're not allowed to go look for Yusuf. Remember, what we understand from the context of the story, Yaqub knows something great is going to happen to Yusuf, but he doesn't know what will happen. This wasn't disclosed to him. So, because it's a test, it's meant to be a test for him. Uncertainty in a trial is difficult, right? When's it going to happen? Will it happen? All of these things, especially if it's a long trial, right? It's very difficult. So, so he says, فَصَبْرٌ جَمِيلٌ. And the way you understand it, there's an implied statement here. فَصَبْرِي صَبْرٌ جَمِيلٌ. So my patience is a beautiful patience. Subhanallah. And what is beautiful patience? Beautiful patience has a few characteristics. One is that you don't lose hope entirely, right? Yes, you might get pushed to your limit, and sometimes when people are in their limits, like we've said before, like Maryam, when she's giving birth, what did she say? She's a siddiqah, like someone of the highest level of iman, and she says, Ya laytani mittu qabla hadha, if only I had died way before this, right? So she's pushed, and in that state she says it, right? But if she wasn't pushed to that limit, she wouldn't say it, right? So it doesn't mean that you've lost hope. Losing hope is like, when things are easier or the difficulty is going, but you're not pushed to your limit, you still say, you panic and you give up hope, right? So there's no jaza, what they call it, right? This losing hope. So, does it mean you don't feel sad? No. In fact, how are you going to feel sad if you're feeling happy? How are you going to be patient if you're feeling happy, right? Patience comes in difficulty, right? Simple as that. The next element of sabr, beautiful patience, is that you don't whinge and whine about that thing to people, right? Can you say, I'm going through a trial, I'm in a difficult situation? Yes. That's not whinging. Can you say to people, please pray for me? Yes. That's not whinging. But the actual, can you go to someone and say, look, I'm going through the X, Y, and Z? Yes, if they can help you and they can help you relieve the situation, right? But you can say, I'm in a difficulty, I'm going through a very difficult test, and we'll see why. And you can say all of this and still be patient. And where do you complain? You complain to Allah, literally, right? Like in the sense that, not objecting, but you're saying, oh Allah, please, look, I've got this problem, and I've got this problem, and I've got this problem. It's been going on for so long, I'm so struggling so much, please help me, only you can help me. That is with Allah. So doing that and doing that as much as you want is not complaining, and it's not jaza, and that doesn't entail that you've not been patient. Patient is going through something with resolve. I'm going to go through this, I'm going to get through this, right? And part of patience is that you expect a reward. Allah's promised many, many rewards for the patient. We'll look at more of these, but part of it, you expect a reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, just bearing this in mind. So, how do we know this? Because Sayyidina Yaqub, when Binyamin is taken, he says, Ya asafa ala Yusuf. Oh, my grief over Yusuf, because that's come back, right? And that's the real grief in the first place. And then, he turns away from them and he says, فَتَوَلَّى عَنْهُمْ and he says to them, إِنَّمَا أَشْكُو بَثِّي وَحُزْنِي إِلَى اللَّهِ. Does he express he's going through difficulty? Yes. Does he say that he's going through trials and whatever? Yes. Does he complain to them, giving them all the detailed blow-by-blow account? No. Right? He says, I only complain about my bath, which comes from the word to spread something out, right? Is a grief that's so intense that you just feel compelled, I have to tell people, I have to get it off my chest, I have to tell someone. He says, that birth of mine, I clearly, I only express it to Allah. And my sadness, I only express it to Allah. Does it mean you can never talk about your problems to someone? No. You can't talk about your problems. Sometimes, it does help. The problem is when you, if you keep going on about your problem over and over, what it does on one level, subconsciously, it reinforces it. And you're adding more and more layers to the problem, right? So just, constantly complaining about this or that or whatever, that's an issue, right? It doesn't help you. But sometimes, yes, talking and discussing with someone, asking their advice or whatever, or just, getting it off, wants to get it off your chest, but, just it is a weight lifted. But don't make it, your crutch, right? And every time you see someone, guess what's happened to me, guess what's happened to me, guess what so-and-so's done to me. If you do that, then this is complaining, and this is also, it actually works against you, right? So he says later, I only complain of my birth, this grief that needs to be told, and my sadness to Allah, right? So this is what beautiful patience is. So, and you expect a reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you're waiting for the ease to come after this difficulty. You're not, panicking and giving up hope, right? Yeah, you can feel discomfort, but like nothing will ever go right, and you're not panicking or giving up hope like that. And there's no complaints to people. Complain all you want to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No objection, just, oh Allah, I'm stuck, I've got this, I've got that. And this is what happens, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took care of him. And then he says, Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad, فَصَبْرٌ جَمِيلٌ وَاللَّهُ الْمُسْتَعَانُ عَلَى مَا تَصِفُونَ. And Allah is the one whose help is sought. Allah is the one whose help I am seeking, and whose help everyone else would seek if they were here in this situation, regarding the lie you've just been telling me, right? And so he saw through them, but he couldn't do much. He's old. They wouldn't have helped, he'd have been all alone. So he left it to Allah in that situation. Sometimes you can't do anything, and all you can do is step back and say, Ya Rabb, you take care of it. I've reached my limit. So we'll come back to this tomorrow, inshaAllah ta'ala. And inshallah we'll look at what happens to Sayyidina Yusuf. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina wa Mawlana Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.
Thank you for listening. This podcast was brought to you by Seekers Guidance, the Global Islamic Seminary. Visit seekersguidance.org to access reliable Islamic knowledge taught by qualified teachers. We offer a wide range of courses, podcasts, articles, and a world-class answer service. Support us in spreading free, reliable Islamic knowledge to millions around the world by becoming a monthly supporter. Visit seekersguidance.org/donate and make a small monthly commitment today. Our beloved Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "Whoever guides someone to goodness will have a similar reward." So don't forget to share this podcast and spread prophetic guidance.